Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. After the advice of dissolution by the CM Punjab yesterday, we'll be talking about the events that are likely to happen. What kind of legal options does the government have at this time? What kind of a likely scenario are we looking at pursuant to this new development as far as Punjab is concerned? We'll be talking about that. The likely period, of course, being 90 days. What does the PMLN expect as far as the Election Commission is concerned, as far as the preparedness of the Election Commission is concerned, considering, of course, the local polls are also likely to be held in April as far as the EC is concerned. We'll be talking about all of that today on Perspective. I have with me Barrister Yasir Lateef, who's a legal expert. Thank you for being with us. We also have with us Siddiqul Farooq from the PMLN. Thank you for joining us. Ji, I'm going to start off with Siddiqul Farooq Sahab. Ji, Siddiqul Farooq Sahab, you know what happened in Punjab Assembly as far as the advice to dissolve the assembly is concerned by Chaudhry Parvez Ilahi, as far as and of course the governor having accepted that, acknowledged that. Now moving on, what does the PMLN expect? You know, there's a lot that has been said on the fact that perhaps this is something that was unexpected by the PMLN. What is your overall opinion about where we are at this time as far as the Punjab Assembly is concerned, as far as the likely scenario in the National Assembly is concerned? Is it going to influence that at all? What is your view?
Thank you, MAHRUKH. The advice of CM to Governor Punjab for the dissolution of the Punjab Assembly has been received by the Governor and also endorsed, as you stated. So now there are two possibilities. The court may intervene on the application of PMLN, and if not, then the assembly will be dissolved within 48 hours, and if the governor doesn't accede to it, CM's advice, then after 48 hours it will automatically stand dissolved because it is constitutional provision. And then elections will be held within 90 days or so. There are other prerequisites. Number one is census, and second is delimitation. Now it depends upon the Election Commission to see whether in prevailing conditions the Election Commission can hold free, fair and independent elections as required by the Constitution or not. If the Election Commission feels that delimitation and census is compulsory for the representation of every citizen of Pakistan and for other constitutional requirements, that then it may go beyond 90 days. But let us see, whatever will be done, we will have to see it. So we will have to wait and see.
Let me come back to you. Siddiqul Farooq Sahab, I'll come back to you. Let me go to Yasir. Ji, Yasir, I think that Siddiqul Farooq Sahab has also mentioned what the legal, I mean, he's gone into some detail on what the legal options are. But overall, like we were earlier talking about, of course, I mean, in a sense, isolating the province from, I mean, a province like Punjab, one of the major provinces, which always has a degree of, I mean, which influences what happens in the center. I don't think I'd be wrong in saying that. This would be, you know, unprecedented if we were to have elections in Punjab and not have elections in National Assembly. That's true, right? I mean, this has never happened. We haven't had this kind of, I'm not saying it hasn't happened elsewhere, but it hasn't happened in Pakistan till now.
It hasn't happened in Pakistan, but I don't see any constitutional hurdle.
Okay.
So I don't see why that can't happen. I mean, we can have 5-year terms which are not, which don't run simultaneous to the centrist term, as it were. Now, I think one of the things that is very clear is that Punjab itself now the assembly has to be dissolved. I mean, it has been dissolved, and the governor has to accept the summary and proceed with the dissolution.
Siddiqul Farooq Sahab is talking about the courts. Do you think that the courts will intervene at all? Do you think that, in your opinion, of course, I mean, it's something that you don't know. I mean, it's your opinion. Do you think that it's likely that there can be an intervention from the courts?
I don't know what grounds they would intervene on.
Okay.
I don't see the grounds, but I think these are some of the questions that Siddiqul Farooq Sahab has raised. I think are very valid questions. The question of delimitation, the question of census. These are all issues, but we've seen that there is a constitutional obligation, and the constitutional obligation is 90 days. Once the dissolution happens, it has to happen in 90 days.
But is there a provision as far as let me come back to you. Siddiqul Farooq Sahab, you know, of course, census, delimitation, these are all relevant things, but is there a provision, do you know of a provision as far as the Election Commission is concerned? Is it up to them? The courts can, of course, say that it's up to the Election Commission if they can hold elections in that time, or the fact that, you know, they will have to then show that they cannot do so. Because of these reasons. Has it ever happened before? Have we seen a delay before? What's your opinion on that?
It is the prime responsibility of the Election Commission and sole responsibility of the Election Commission to hold free, fair and independent elections. And if the prevailing conditions do not permit the Election Commission for realization of these objectives, then it can announce, it can take a decision in this regard that though the constitutional provision says 90 days, it imposes 90 days binding, but if both clauses or articles are read together, then the prime objective is to hold free, fair and independent elections. So I think it will be the prerogative of the Election Commission to see and then to take a decision, and that decision can be challenged by opponents in the Supreme Court or in the High Court. And the things may even linger on them. But prime conditions, basic conditions are to hold free, fair and independent elections.
But Siddiqul Farooq Sahab, in terms of, you know, whether that happens or not, is the PMLN, are you prepared to now move on and get into the next phase of this, which will be getting into, you know, caretaker setup, which will then follow in Punjab, and you know, is the PMLN prepared to now you know, start sorting that out with the PTI, because of course it's a consultative procedure which will then require you and the government and the opposition, you know, consultation between both of them?
I'm not positive on this proposition that PMLN and PTI will sit together and constitute a caretaker government, make a caretaker government with consensus. My opinion is that finally Election Commission will have to appoint a caretaker government.
Okay. You think that it's unlikely that you will be able to reach an agreement, both the PTI and the PMLN on this, and it will have to involve, let me come back to you. Ji Yasir, you heard what Siddiqul Farooq Sahab is saying. He's saying that it's unlikely that there will be an agreement on this, and that, you know, of course it seems rather obvious in the sense that, you know, there is considerable, what can one call it? I mean, there doesn't seem to be any kind of working relationship between the PTI and the PMLN. So what is likely? It's going to drag out the procedure? What is going to happen?
It can drag out indefinitely.
Okay.
And the reason is that you have 3 days for the Chief Minister and the opposition leader to sit down and decide the caretakers' names. When that doesn't happen, you have another 3 days where it goes to a committee which committee is constituted of 3 members from the opposition and 3 members from the treasury benches. Then they have 3 days. And once that is not decided, it goes to the election commission, which has to then come up with a
Is there a time limit within which the election commission also has to decide?
I believe that there is. I believe that it's not a very long period of time, because when you read the two together, you have to have a caretaker set up in place for the election. So I believe that it is. It should be a few days. I don't think it's in weeks. It's definitely in days.
It's also going to be a daunting task for the election commission, because we are now talking about the former prime minister is now talking about doing, dissolution, moving towards dissolution in KP also. So for that time frame has to follow, of course, as far as the KP Assembly is concerned, and that procedure has to start there also. It will be easier, you think, there?
It's easier because PTI has an overwhelming majority, so I don't see why there would be a hurdle. But I think the opposition will obviously linger on the process of deciding. So it's going to take those 9-10 days. So I see it going down the same route that the Punjab Assembly will. And yes, there's not going to be a consensus
either. And that also, of course, will involve the intervention of likely involve the intervention of the election commission. Let me come back to you. Ji Siddiqul Farooq Sahab, overall, when we are looking at this kind of scenario where, if the election commission doesn't come up with the, like you are saying, census, delimitation, whatever reasons, if the elections are going to go forward in KP and Punjab, Sindh local polls are also, recently it was said the courts didn't allow them to be delayed. Overall, in this kind of a situation, we have a prime minister who's even now gone to talk about investment, to talk about bringing as much investment back to Pakistan. In this kind of a scenario, retaining things in the center, how difficult do you think will it be?
As far as holding of election is concerned, now, once again, I will repeat that it is the basic and prime responsibility of the election commission. Even Supreme Court cannot hold elections.
Right.
Local bodies elections in KPKR, so local bodies elections can be postponed till the provincial elections are held. But as far as you are referring to the prevailing economic conditions and Prime Minister's efforts to help resolve the economic problem, the prevailing situation, Pakistan over, is not commendable. It is rather deplorable that the evolution of consensus is far away. I don't see that Tehreek-e-Insaf will sit with other parties. The then Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif convened an APC after Peshawar APC public schools incident, rather national tragedy. And he also invited Imran Khan and allowed him to sit on his right side. And then the leadership evolved a consensus, and operations Zarbeaz was.
We're just going to be taking a short break. After that, we'll come back and talk more about what the likely scenario in Punjab and both Karachi polls. Welcome back. We've been talking about what's happening as far as the post-dissolution scenario in Punjab is concerned. Ji, Siddiqul Farooq Sahab, can you hear me? I'll come back to you. Ji,
yes,
Siddiqul Farooq Sahab, we've been talking about what the likely scenario is going to be. As far as, so it's really not a very long period of time. As we were earlier talking about, it's a total of 8 days as far as, consultation between the opposition and the government is concerned, then going back to the Election Commission is concerned, all of that in total is 8 days. So in that kind of a scenario, if that happens, it's followed through as far as Punjab is concerned, it's followed through in KP. Overall, are you seeing it have any influence on pressurize, which is what the former Prime Minister, it seems, wanted as far as general elections are concerned? There is an all-out call for general elections as far as the PTI is concerned, as far as his party is concerned, as far as he himself is concerned. Do you think it's going to influence that at all, or you think that if the Election Commission is okay with it, then we will have provincial elections and the National Assembly will complete its term? How do you see it?
Election Commission cannot dictate the federal government or the Prime Minister to dissolve National Assembly, or Chief Minister Sindh or Balochistan to dissolve provincial assemblies. So it will be probably for the first time in Pakistan, as Yasir Latif and you both have said. In India, it is a practice. But for the first time in Pakistan, if the elections are not delayed due to these preconditions, which I have already mentioned, then I think it will be for the first time that elections of 2 provincial assemblies will be held.
Okay.
And as far as the National Assembly and other provinces are concerned, they will complete their constitutional term till 9th of August, 12 in the evening.
Let me go to Jahanzeb Durrani, who is an advocate, High Court. He's also writes. Jahanzeb, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you for having me on your show.
Jahanzeb, overall, as far as we're talking about whether this scenario in Punjab, KP, as the PTI has been calling for general elections, saying that they should follow, and this seems to be a pressure move. Do you think it will have any influence in the centre?
Well, definitely it will have. After all, Punjab is the biggest province of the country, and I see no reason that there would be no influence on the federal government after this dissolution of assembly. For the benefit of your viewers, I think it is important to put things in perspective before answering your question directly. We have had 40 years of military dictatorship in our country. There is no doubt that it had a significant impact on a lot of areas, including our political ruling's elite vision of the future. I wish they had made some valuable amendments in the Constitution. You remember, we are all aware of the past history of governments being ousted with a single sign from the president, and it took us decades to realize that 58(2)B is undemocratic and a violation of the democratic norms. So I hope after this mess is over, I'm calling it a mess for a reason, because our financial situation is not that great that we can go to elections at this stage in 2 different phases.
But Jahanzeb Sahab, as far as the government is concerned, as far as the government is concerned, they're saying that let the elections happen in Punjab, let the elections happen in KP. The government will complete its term. As far as the general elections are concerned, they're going to be held in the end of this year, and that's when they will be held. If that happens, there's nothing legal to prevent that from happening, of course.
Yeah, of course, there is nothing illegal, but the propriety demands that a country of our sort must have elections at a single day. Although I know there is no hurdle in the Constitution, but we are at the brink of economic default, and in this type of scenario, it won't be prudent to have elections on 2 different dates. That's my take. Although you are very much right that there is nothing illegal in all this, and considering the present situation, I'm optimistic about a number of things happening in this country. First of all, that again, there is nothing illegal happening. But again, I personally feel that this mess could have been averted if our political leadership.
Let me come back to you, Janzeb Sahab.
Yeah.
Let me, of course, I mean, Yasir, the other way to look at it is, of course, it could be avoided also by having an opposition that was willing to, be in the National Assembly, exist in the province, and let the government complete its term.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're not looking at years now. We're looking at a couple of months.
Yes, it's only a matter of 6 months or so, 7 months at most. Even that's the number.
What do you think that there's so much, what has necessitated this kind of, what can one say, emergency measure, in your opinion?
Well, I think, I mean, let's be clear about it. Mr. Imran Khan is not a selfless individual. It is the fact that he's not selfless that has, and ultimately this country needs selfless leaders. Without selflessness, this is not going to work. And that's the thing. Now, if because of Mr. Imran Khan's vested interest and the fact that he's actually now created this situation, if that leads to an election in Punjab and KP that's on a different timeline than the center, so be it. So be it. That is the norm and when you actually talk about parliamentary democracy and the fact that there is this idea that assemblies can be dissolved at different times, then you are absolutely allowing this to be a constitutional endeavor. The fact that you could actually change the date of the elections, or have them at different times, right? So I don't agree with my friend Mr. Durrani at all. I think there is absolutely no legal imperative. I think that there was a political decision. The opposition, in this case Mr. Imran Khan, has overplayed his hand. The very fact, the real issue, the issue that we must put forth before the public is that what happened in April of 2022 was perfectly constitutional and legal, that a government went out through a constitutional, legal, democratic process, and the very fact that that happened, and you have a gentleman, if you can call him that, now on the streets, and every now and then on the streets, and then out on the roads, and then doing stunts, pulling stunts like the Punjab Assembly dissolution. I think the blame should go where it lies, and which it lies with Mr. Imran Khan.
But what happens, I want to move on, of course, and talk about what's happening as far as the Sindh Assembly is concerned, the local polls there. But in terms of what's, I mean, as a parting discussion, as far as this whole scenario is concerned, what's the best case scenario for PTI? That they end up having majority again, which they already did when he called for dissolution. And
exactly.
then we go for a general election on time. And
Exactly.
that will, do you think that will result in this move becoming ineffectual in a sense? I mean, it will lose its thunder, so to speak.
As long as the government stays put and stays the course and doesn't give up on, and when I talk about the government, I mean the federal government, it doesn't give in to the whims of Mr. Imran Khan and goes ahead with a national election, which it isn't. So I believe that it would be a very ineffectual, useless, utterly useless move on part of the PTI.
Let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Mustafa Baloch with the PPP. Ji, Mustafa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Ji, overall, we want to move on and talk about what's happening as far as the scenario in Karachi is concerned, the by-polls, which are, going to be held now as per the EC, and, there is on January the 15th. What is the likely position there? How do you see things panning out in this overall, as far as the MQM is concerned, as far as the party positions are concerned?
MAHRUKH, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. People's Party, especially Sindh government, is very keen to hold the local bodies election because it is obviously in favor of the ruling party in Sindh government. And the people of Karachi have been like, they really want the power to be dissolved to the lower house, that is local government. But the problem is that the recent merger of MKM has created, a different landscape of in politics, in domestic politics of Karachi. So we can't just rule out that thing, and they have certain reservations. So you have also seen that earlier Jamaat Islami had certain reservations, and we tried to convince them, and we brought them on table, and we convinced them, and we brought certain changes in the Local Government Act. So we don't want any party to, blame us later on after the elections are held. So if MQM has certain reservations, and we are in discussion with the party, so that we don't, come up with a big crisis in this big metropolitan city which has more than 30 million population. So this is a matter of concern, and we definitely want. We are not running away from the elections. We are
But
fielded
Mustafa, now
almost.
as I understand it, they are. I mean, there's a date in the field. Now it's going to be on the 15th. Am I right?
Yes, so far Election Commission has given its verdict, and they want to keep it on the date earlier decided. But having said that, we can't just because the recent press conference of MKM was also quite alarming, because they were quite agitated with certain things. But we definitely want them to come on the same page, and contest elections, because we, as the Pakistan People's Party, we have fielded almost our local bodies candidates in every union councils. So we are not running away. We don't want to. All the candidates of our party are working day and night. Till today, we have also given them instructions to carry on their campaign. So we are not running away. It's not that we want to just escape this local government elections. It's just that we have seen that late elections, there are even after general elections, we see that things change. People do come out and protest that there was certain kind of pre-poll rigging, certain kind of post-poll rigging. So we don't want that in Karachi.
But overall, in terms of what's happening what's happening in Karachi at this time, of course, from time to time, it's no secret. The MQM has been an ally, and then they've also had reservations. Overall, like you yourself have said, that you want to perhaps deal with the reservations. Overall, in terms of the scenario, the party positions, how do you see it?
Well, so far, I think that there's only one party, which is MKM. Definitely, other parties are all set for the elections. So let's hope that MKM comes on the terms, and ECP thing, all the demarcations of the union councils and all that. It will take time. If that happens, it will take time.
And you think you will be able to get that kind of time?
It is not impossible, but it will definitely take time. But then other parties will have their own reservations, like, for example, Jamaat Islami and PTI and all these parties in Karachi. They will also have their own. So we don't want a mess in this local government elections. We want this elections to be very, peacefully handled.
Right, fair enough. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for your input, Mustafa Baloch. Sadiqul Farooq Sahab, I mean, as a politician, you've had a lot of experience. Overall, in terms of what's happening as far as the Karachi scenario is concerned, what is your opinion on, as far as the MQM, of course, and their reservations? How do you look at things there?
Not if commitments have been made with MQM, as they claim, I believe that those commitments should be fulfilled at all costs. But if the situation in Karachi doesn't support holding of elections, and there are certain laws, so I think the ruling party should also adhere to their demands in that situation too, because the People's Party in Sindh is a popular party. This is their third term in the government. And if they feel that they will sweep elections, that they will have their own mayor, a Jala mayor in Karachi, then they should not be threatened with the postponement of elections for 2 days. This is my personal opinion.
Let me go to Yasir, and then I'll come back to you. Yasir, since we're talking about the situation in Karachi, do you think that, even a delay in by-polls, do you think will have a significant effect on what's happening as far as the likely position, as far as the likely party positions in Karachi is concerned?
Well, I think, I'm sorry to say, I think the ruling coalition, as it were, and the government in Sindh are perhaps a little wary of going to the polls.
Okay.
It's something that they're probably, I don't know what the fear is. I think we can guess. I think we can all take guesses on what it is. So I don't think if they actually delay the polls, it's going to make a difference. I think this year is the year of populism.
Okay.
And unfortunately for the ruling coalition, this blind populism that has taken over the country is going to result in an electoral victory for the populists. So I think that's what the fear is as well. So
let me come back to you. Jahanzeb, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Jahanzeb, as far as the legal requirements are concerned, at this time, what the situation is, it's likely that the by-polls will be held on the 15th. What is your legal opinion? You think that there can be a further delay in this?
No, I don't think so. The framers of the 18th Amendment had imposed a constitutional obligation on provincial governments to establish local government systems in their respective provinces. Under Article 140A of the Constitution, it is the responsibility of the provincial government to devolve political, administrative, and financial responsibilities and to elected representatives. I don't see any reason why there should be a delay in the local body elections. In the past, we have seen Karachi was managed very well under Mustafa Kamal's leadership. It was all due to the local government, since local governments were in place. Today, the situation of Karachi is very peculiar because there are different segments of MQM which have just recently joined, so they are not that strong in their constituencies right now. So they are just gaining time. That's what my perspective is. So, but I don't. Though their demand of delimitation and other things were not properly heard at different forums, but though they are very genuine. But I think election should not be postponed. Election Commission has already decided, and I've been just reading your news. So I think it should happen. And and commenting on what Yasser was saying, I totally agree with him that there is no reason why there should be a delay in
right. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your very valuable input. Mustafa, thank you for being with us. Jahanzeb, thank you for joining us today. Mustafa, I hope you heard what overall we've been talking about as far as the by-polls are concerned. Do you think, is it about populism in your opinion?
I would like to disagree with Barrister Yasser that populism has taken over. It's not the fact. If that was the reason, then the populist leader could have allowed local government elections in Punjab, in Lahore, where he was much popular at that time. So it's not that case. People's Party is certainly not scared of that. We just want things to happen in a proper way because we are a mature party. We are not like a party that has been nurtured for like a couple of years. We are a party with a background, with a history. We know how to deal with things. So definitely, this 18th Amendment which we are talking about is a product of People's Party. So definitely, we would like to, and we have done in phase 1 in Sindh, we have dissolved the powers to the local government across the Sindh. But in the second phase, earlier there were like issues related to the flood and we couldn't have that kind of security resources because all the police resources were giving the services in flood. So we couldn't manage that accordingly. ECP knew about it. So if today MKM has we see it's the MKM that is demanding to postpone the elections, not the People's Party. So if a party that has been here for a couple of years, I would say decades, and recently also they have a majority in National Assembly and Provincial Assembly, so we have to listen to them. We can't just ignore them.
Right, fair enough. Siddiqul Farooq Sahab, unfortunately I'm running out of time, but I want your comments on overall as far as the political scenario at this time is concerned. You know, of course, it's not a very stable time, unfortunately. How do you look at things? Do you think that, you know, perhaps this is what is going to result in a more stable kind of, you know, Pakistan for us? Also, do you feel that, you know, there's a lot that has been said about the former Prime Minister perhaps having overestimated his popularity, and you know, perhaps you know, holding out his cards too fast, playing out his hand too fast? Do you think it's true? How do you look at things?
I think his popularity is decreasing day by day due to his changing stances, U-turns, audios, etc., etc. As far as the prevailing situation, Pakistan over is concerned, I have already said it is not appreciable, not commendable. It is rather deplorable. All parties should sit together. Our, everything is linked with Pakistan. If Pakistan is stable, it is prosperous. It there is constitutional rule in it. We all will, we all will be, and our future generations will be safe. So I think
Fair enough.
uh,
Thank you so much
an
for...
APC
Ji.
is required. So once an APC is convened, there should be consensus on basic interest of the state.
Fair enough. Thank you so much for being with us, Barrister Yasir Lateef. Thank you for joining us. Siddiqul Farooq Saab, thank you for being with us. Mustafa Baloch, thank you for joining us today. Tanzeb Durrani, thank you for being with us today. Overall, of course, like Siddiqul Farooq Saab said, it's Pakistan first. It's about constitution. It's about rule of law. And we certainly hope that all the parties can acknowledge, can go by the fact that, of course, everything is linked to Pakistan, and certainly stability should be the order of the day. Of course, you know, any kind of turmoil, any kind of instability will result, will have its own ramifications for everyone, all parties, Pakistan as a whole. And of course, as far as piecemeal elections in provinces are concerned, there's nothing legal, you know, illegal about having elections in Punjab and in KP while the federal government holds till its term. And of course, we will see what happens. But at this time, perhaps it's time to reflect for all political parties whether they can work together, whether there can be, you know, a time for some kind of a dialogue, even if they're going to move towards a caretaker setup, if they're going to be making key decisions, rather than the kind of conflict that we've seen earlier on. Thank you so much for joining us today on Postcard.